Whoa.
He's connecting to audio.
Oop, that's not my fault.
Becky, what are you knitting?
Well, I'm trying out this like face mask. So I got a rubber band. See? And it like goes here.
Neato.
So I'm doing it in 2 halves. I don't know. It's taken me all day to do this tiny little. What else is there to do? So.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
Winemaker.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how to change that.
Stefan can change it.
What do you want to change it to?
You can change it to my name.
You got it. I think I can do that. Let's see. Ariel, correct?
Yep, that's it.
Ariel. All right. Greg, it looks like you're having a little trouble with audio, but we can see you A-okay. Yeah.
Hey,
And
Jay.
wine.
Maybe you need to unmute in your lower left-hand corner.
His video, he's still hasn't gotten it all connected yet, so he's working on it.
Okay.
There you are. Awesome.
Hi. How are you?
Hey, buddy.
Whoa.
Oh, hey, Greg. I hear Greg, but I don't see Greg. Oh, there you are.
Here I am.
Hello.
Thanks for setting this up, Stephen and Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, unmute yourself. There you go.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for joining us. We're in our infancy here, so you gotta bear with us. We don't really know exactly what we're doing, but
we're all learning.
we've been having fun. I've been watching your guys' Instagram stuff that's been coming out, and I finally got the new labels in at the store, the Pinot. So I was really stoked on that. We sold a good bit. For a little bit of background for everybody else, Stefan and I went to the winery in 2017. We were traveling around Oregon, and we were down in McMinnville, and we stopped by the winery, and we had an awesome day. That was a good day. We went to the Erratic Rock, which is right next door, and we also went to May Syrah. But we tasted a ton of wines, and these wines really stood out to us. And so we've brought them into the store. They've done really well too. We have 2 stores. And we used to have it mostly at the second store, but now it's at TLS. And when we were there, we saw a bottle of 90+ Cellars Pinot. And we sold quite a bit of that as well.
That's down
well, they made that wine, and it was good. But, $22.99 Oregon Pinot. I can't think of a better deal going right now. That's what we sell it for at the store, and that's mostly what I know about it. They're fantastic winery, all estate grown for that kind of price is kind of rare, especially for Oregon.
Being all estate.
Turn it over to Ariel and Greg and let them maybe tell us a little bit more about what they do.
Yeah, sure. Greg, you want to go first?
Sure, love to. So Yamhill Valley Vineyards is a family winery founded by my dad and stepmom in the early 80s. 83 was our first vintage. I guess I'm just going to give you a little rundown on some of the history and all that kind of stuff, and then pass it off to Ariel. We're the oldest winery in the McMinnville AVA, one of the newer AVAs in Oregon, and kind of our hallmark is our cooler climate and unique soil and terroir, and little touch of marine sediment intrusion in the soils. And so big, robust, earthy, fun wines. This 16 that we have in front of us is really in its prime drinking window right now. So it's, yay, there we go. And it's obviously debuting the new label, so we're thrilled with that. Certainly want to give some thanks to Kevin. We've had some great successes in Jackson, and Big John Brzezinski's done a good job representing Yamhill there. And so, thanks to John and all the support we've had. But yeah, there's something to be said for, Oregon Pinot Noir and 35-year-old property. We've learned a lot about our land and terroir, and couldn't be more thrilled to release such a stellar wine with the new package. And it's just, like I said, it's in its drinking window. We like to kind of be releasing our wines just slightly. That was me. Sorry about that. So popular over here. We love releasing our wines in a drinking window. So 2016 right now is in its perfect drinking window. We're in the middle of selling through that wine, and that's the plan for the future with us. But yeah, rather than have me babble along, I hope everybody's having a nice swill of it, and I'll pass it off to Ariel to give you a little more insight on the growing season and how we go about crafting our wines at Yamhill.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So, yeah, we were, as you both said, we were established in 1983, and since 1986, we've been 100% estate grown, produced, and bottled. So, as Kevin mentioned, our pricing is very competitive, and that is a vision that Greg's dad, Dennis, had for quite some time, to get these quality wines to you, being all estate, us sharpening our blade, basically sharpening our skills and learning about our site over the last 37 years. So we've had the same farmer, Carlos. He's been with us for 28 years, and I just want to start by saying what a pleasure it is to work with him, and the fruit that he produces makes my job as easy as it could possibly be. He knows our site so well, and it's really an honor. Greg spoke about the vintage a little bit. 2016 was very generous to us, both in quality and quantity. We were able to get into the black fruit spectrum of fruit because we had a warmer vintage. And being that we're in the McMinnville AVA, which is the American viticultural area that's closest to the Oregon coast, we're a lot cooler than a lot of the sites a little further inland in the Willamette Valley. So it's not every vintage that we get into that black spectrum of fruit. One of the things that I thought we could do today, because I just happen to have an aerator handy, and if you have an aerator like this or something else, what I was going to suggest is that we do a side-by-side comparison with and without the aerator. So if you have a moment to grab an aerator and an extra wine glass, I think you'll be really impressed with the difference that a little bit of air adds to this wine. And Greg is totally right in saying that this is in its prime drinking window, but I believe that it will continue to get better as well. So we'll test that theory through this process of aeration.
What a hype for.
I have my fancy, this was a gift. This one is the aerated one. And then gotta represent the brand, got the Yamhill Valley Vineyards glass, both in the Oregon Pinot Noir wine glass. Cheers, Greg.
Hey, cheers to it. That's the Zoom
And
here. I like that.
we'll do the double swirling action.
Wow. You can tap your head and rub your belly in a circle, I bet, doing those swirls.
I hope so. I've been working on that for a while.
I am
So,
Ariel,
but
unfortunately.
who was able to grab an aerator and join me on this?
Oh.
Awesome. We got double fisting happening here, as we should. It's Thirsty Thursday, right? No, is it? It's Wednesday. It's Wine Wednesday.
Wonderful wine
Isn't
Wednesday.
it?
I could
Perfect.
shake the bottle vigorously and then put it in the glass, I guess, which is actually a trick I used to do when they would give me these horrible samples at this distributor I worked at. Sometimes they needed it.
Yeah.
Have you ever used
So-
a blender to aerate, to do a super aeration? Have you ever seen that?
A what?
A blender. Yeah.
Oh God, no, that hurts my heart a little bit.
All right, don't do that. Don't do that.
I think that's
Okay.
too
I
much.
have heard winemakers talk about microwaving their wine though, and I'm just like, I'm not really into that either. But
For what purpose?
for aging and releasing dissolved oxygen.
Oh.
Whoa. I don't like.
But I feel like it would
microwave
just
chicken.
kind
I
of
don't like microwave wine.
shock it.
I did poorly in science class in school, so I would stay away from that.
So those of you that have joined in the aeration versus non-aeration, what are you noticing?
That you're double fisting, and this is pretty fun.
Yeah. I got a full
Yeah, party time.
Okay.
It tastes a lot smoother. It doesn't. It's a lot of easier drinking than, for some
It
Mm-hmm.
reason.
accelerates that open up period where you oxygenate, kind of fleshes out, exposes all the kind of corners of all the hidden flavors in the wine.
Mm-hmm. It's also a lot more aromatic. You get a lot more of that fruit coming out with the aerated. So the aeration really just simulates what it would be like if you let it sit for a little bit. Like maybe you drink a glass and wait overnight, but you don't have to do that if you get one of these nice little aerators. And who has time to wait for that anyway, huh? So it's instant gratification. And I kind of like to do this with all kinds of different wines, and just rather than committing to the whole bottle, go ahead and sample it for yourself and decide which style you like better. If you prefer the aerated, you can treat the rest of the bottle that way. And if you prefer the non-aerated, go for it. You know, really listen to your own palate and your own preference on that. But yeah, this wine is really special to me personally, because this was the first vintage that the Berger family and Stephen Carey, our former head winemaker, entrusted me to be their head winemaker. So Stephen was also with Yamhill Valley Vineyards for 27 years. And all of our staff is very long-term. Most of the people that work at Yamhill have been there longer than 10 years. So we have a really strong family atmosphere. There's, of course, the Berger family. Greg and Jenny and Dennis are part of that. And Elaine helps out with a lot of our safety meetings. And I think we may have a new Berger coming on for Harvest this year. I just got some word today that Greg's daughter will be joining us for some of the fun around Harvest 2020. So it's a really good core family. And then the employees over the years, we become like family. So we all celebrate, you know, Christmas together, and we have a big post-harvest festivity where our other owner brings fried chicken. He's from Minnesota, so he calls it Minnesota fried chicken, and we just have all these really fun family traditions, and we like each other a lot too, so it's a fun place to work. What else do you guys want to know about?
Well, hearing about the fun family stuff, that's important to us, because being such a small town, it feels like, I think a lot of us can say that we have our local family. And since this all started, the wine tasting, there's several of us on here who've all been tasting wine almost 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
3 nights a
I'm a
week.
virtual wine tasting family. It's great.
Yeah, right
That's
on.
very cool. I live in a small community too. I live in Northwest Montana in Whitefish, and I have my mountain community folks with me right now, and splitting time between attempting to get work done in backcountry skiing. We've actually got a couple feet of new snow over the last 10 days or so no complaints. Well, there's a chirpy puppy going there, huh? Yeah, but I totally get it. And, you know, we are a tight-knit group, and, you know, Carlos and Jenny's boyfriend have a pumpkin growing contest every year during harvest, and that's kind of a fun thing. And, you know, we just, we're a tight group, and we're all appreciative of what the land gives us, and we're super respectful of how we tend to the vineyard and how we go about things, and it's all intertwined and woven together, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of love of our dirt and our earth and our ground out there. And I think we all feel super fortunate that we're in this industry, and shit, we can all hang out and Zoom and drink wine. This is a pretty cool thing. So, but as far as like burger perspective and how fortunate are we to have Ariel making our wines, and she's really dedicated herself to our terroir, our land, how to make it better every day. And so, you know, that's such a big component to it. But, you know, I'd love to hear from you guys a little bit about how's this tasting? How does this compare? Do you guys like Oregon Pinot Noir? Do you guys taste a little bit of the McMinnville dirt in this? We tend to be structured, earthy, robust, darker, blacker fruits, especially this vintage. Like we've hit on before, we feel like the value for this bottle of wine is the best we can deliver from our estate. And we're so thrilled with the pricing and the value and those that have supported us. So love to hear a little feedback on just what people are tasting, thoughts, anything of importance that really touches you guys.
It is a great price point. I would expect that it would be a more expensive wine. It's really good. It's easy to drink.
Right
I
on.
like it.
Right on. There's something to be said for, you know, my dad was a home winemaker in the late 70s in Portland, and he added onto our garage and built a home winemaking facility. And then he was encouraged by friends in the industry to shop for some property. And pretty much the further you drove out of Portland in 1981, the cheaper land got. And he got to the other side of McMinnville, and it seemed like it was a lot of land for not a huge price. And he just went with it, and we've just been kind of riding those coattails ever since. But there's what I was getting at is that, you know, we purchased this land years ago, and it's a state operation. We pass on the savings of, you know, 40 years later onto our customers. I mean, we certainly could charge more. We feel the most important thing is to share what, you know, this beautiful place that we have, you know, at the best, most affordable price to everybody. And really the goal of the brand is to represent, you know, incredible value for what it is, and that it's estate, and that it's 30 plus years old, and that it just speaks to the land and the place where these wines were grown. And so we refer to them as place wines. We want them to taste like where they were grown and the vintage. And that's kind of what Ariel does for us. And like I said, we're on this path right now with some really stellar vintages, and who knows where we'll be in a few years, but you know, we're going down a path that's been many, many years to get to where we are. And it's just so fun to do these kind of things and share the story and hear some kind words. So, you know, I hope you guys are really enjoying this, and make sure, and I'm sure Kevin will be bringing in the rosé, but that's the gem of the lineup too. Our
Already have it. Come get it.
Something to think about.
All right.
Yeah, got the rosé. 2019's on the shelf.
I'll shut up because I could talk all night long, and so.
Sure.
But this is a really cool thing, and I love being a part of it, and hope we can do it again. And you know, let's taste some rosé and some reserve wine next time.
So
Cool, yeah. I think we can talk a little bit more about the site, the specifics of the site, because that really is what we're dedicated to. And just to give you a little background on me, I was introduced to Yamhill Valley Vineyards in 2008. My mom was actually a big fan of the wines, and her best friend happened to be neighbors with Dennis Berger. I found out about this later on, but I applied to be an intern for Harvest 2008. And at that point, I had my degree in biology and minor in chemistry from Oregon State University. I had never studied wine before, but I had a strong pull to vineyards and wanted to learn more about production. So I applied with Stephen Carey, and he had an intern that had dropped out at the last minute that he was expecting to come from New Zealand. So I told him, I can work hard and I'm a quick study and I'm really interested to learn everything. And he said, all right, come back tomorrow. So it was definitely my opportunity and my foot in the door. And after that 2008 harvest, I definitely got the bug and wanted to do more. And with Dennis's support and encouragement, I went on to do 2 harvests in New Zealand, one in 2009 at Palliser Estate on the North Island in outside of Martinborough, just let's see, east of Wellington, and then in 2010 at Shard Farm in Central Otago. So I learned some new things there, brought them back to the winery, and at that point I started taking classes at Shemeketa Wine Studies to learn more about the specifics of education around winemaking, and had the chance to work with some really established winemakers and great instructors there, just taking 1 class per term while I continued working full-time. But nothing replaces the one being in the winery and learning how to do all the practical work, and 2, there isn't a better wine industry to learn how to be a winemaker, because Oregon, you may have heard, is full of camaraderie, full of support among winemakers. And there's an event that happens every summer that Stephen Carey, our former winemaker, helped organize, called the Steamboat Pinot Noir Conference. And that is Pinot Noir producers from all over the world getting together and sharing their victories, and more importantly, their problem children, and blind tasting in a roundtable discussion style with small groups, everyone blind tasting, writing their own notes, and then compiling those notes at each table, sharing them, and then at the point where everyone has shared what they want, the winemaker that produced that wine has the chance to claim it. And 9 times out of 10, if somebody claims it, they get it right. And then we have a discussion about why they chose to bring that wine and what we could do differently to treat the problem that they might have had. Or, you know, there's always side conversations that come up on suggestions and different things, but it's amazing the data that they give you, everything from the aspect of how it was grown, the elevation, the yield, to the specifics of the winemaking, including the yeast that was used, the barrel program, the highest temperature that was reached during fermentation. So that really was a deep dive and a very strong influence on my education as well. So being that I've been at Yamhill since 2008, and prior to that, Stephen had been there since 1990, I think.
90 first.
I took on so much knowledge from him, and I think that's part of what gives us this upper hand, is really being able to work with the same fruit and the same site year after year. And Stephen was so committed to his winemaking that unfortunately he did pass away in 2018, but on his headstone, he wanted his headstone to say, we didn't tell them, they told us. And he was talking about the vines. And that is absolutely the philosophy that I have adopted. And it's very much about removing ego and removing what you want something to be, and utilizing experimentation and doing it small scale at the beginning, and then going back and getting sensory feedback from those wines and from those vines that produced the grapes that made that wine. And everything is kept separate. So we have over 25 blocks on our almost 100 acres that we have planted. We have 150 acres total, including all the roads and the buildings and everything, but about 100 acres of vineyard. And every block is kept separate. And we're learning things about those blocks every year. and then fine tuning the winemaking. And I feel like that is the opportunity that I've been able to take advantage of, is really being able to fine tune and being able to do these experiments and get feedback from those vines and know what to do going forward. So it's been an honor. Our site, it's a very complex site. It ranges from about 200 to 600 feet in elevation, but to simplify it, you can break it down into 2 main soil types. Greg spoke about the marine sedimentary soils. So we're primarily marine sedimentary from about 300 feet elevation and lower. So it's about half of our acreage. And that tends to be more of the earthy component, more spice, more bold, more old world. And a lot of those plantings are older plantings. Things prior to the early 90s were planted in a single high wire. So when you come to visit us, you can see the older plantings and just know that they're older based on the different trellis type. The post early 1990s plantings are more of the modern planting that you see all over the valley, which is called vertical shoot positioning, or VSP. And that is trained so that the vines face upward toward the sunlight, and it also opens up the canopy to allow airflow. We're really lucky that we have plenty of airflow, being that we're pretty close to the Pacific Ocean. As it warms up inland, we get that pressure system that moves in from the Pacific Ocean, and the wind picks up every evening in the summer. And so we get a really perfect climate for Pinot Noir, which tends to be a little more prone to disease and rot, but the Willamette Valley really gives us this amazing climate to grow it in. Above 300 feet elevation, we're primarily volcanic soil. So those Pinot Noir clones tend to express more fruit, more floral. And I think of it almost in terms of feminine versus masculine. You get more of the masculine flavors, more of those earthy, leathery, spicy characteristics in the lower elevations in that marine sedimentary soil, and more of the feminine characteristics, the fruit, the floral, the perfumey in the higher elevations in the volcanic soil. So this wine, our estate, typically is our largest production. And it's a really nice opportunity for us to showcase our entire site. So while harvest is full of all the most important decisions that we make for what is going to determine the style of the vintage, blending is really the close second most important part of what we do. So as I said, we're keeping all those blocks separate. What we do is we taste through and we make ratings for each block. We decide at that point if it's going to be of estate reserve or tall poppy quality. And so if you don't know, we have 2 more high-end labels that we produce regularly. Reserve, we typically produce on a yearly basis. However, if we don't have a year that supports it, we won't make it. And then Tall Poppy is our premium wine that we produce. And that one, we've only made that 13 out of the 37 years that we've been around. So it really takes a stellar vintage for something to be deemed Tall Poppy. And if you have a chance to get your hands on one of those, I would highly recommend it. So yeah, that's a little bit about our site, a little bit about our wines, and the 2016 really is a great expression of our site in total.
Agreed. Delicious. Really, really, really great wine. Since we've got you, can I bother you to get 2 restaurant recommendations for the next time I come back to the Willamette Valley? Your 2 favorites, bar none. What you got?
So I am a big fan of sushi, and Bamboo Sushi is the world's first sustainable sushi restaurant. It was started in Portland. Their first location was on Southeast 28th, I think. but they've since expanded to Northwest, Southwest, Portland, and then I think they have a location in Lake Oswego. I would recommend going to the Portland locations. I think they've also expanded to Denver and maybe New York. So they've done very well for themselves. And I really appreciate their business model because they're having conversations about sustainability that other restaurants and other sushi restaurants are not having. They actually won't serve things like unagi because unagi is farmed in an unsustainable way. And the quality of the sushi there is just amazing. So everything from that in terms of sustainability to the soap that they use in their bathroom is actually repurposed from their fryers. So they take the used oil from their fryers, send it off to a partner company that they have, and that company produces the soap that they use in their bathroom. So it's a really impressive business model, and the food is on point. Another restaurant that I would like to recommend which is classically Pacific Northwest style of food and a great supporter of Yamhill Valley Vineyards, is McCormick and Schmick's. They have 2 locations, one on the waterfront in downtown Portland and one in Bridgeport that they serve our wine in. And if you want a nice, they're really known for their seafood as well, but it's just a beautiful Northwest cuisine, and they've been doing it for a really long time. So those are the 2 I would recommend. And I'm sure Greg has some recommendations too. He spent a lot of time here and grown up here.
Awesome. Thank you. Especially since we can't go to restaurants right now. I feel like this is something I want to ask everybody that we have on the show so that when we can go again, boom, we know where to go.
Yeah, make your wish list.
I throw in, if you're in wine country, go to La Rambla, Spanish place in McMinnville.
Mm-hmm.
So put that on your list if you like paella. If you need a little hit of Padron peppers and some zippy some Pinot Gris or something, that's a good spot. And there, you can't go wrong. And there's other places that aren't so Oregon and sustainable. But hey, it's all about washing our hands.
What's wrong with that? That's awesome.
You smell great after that oil soap stuff. It's really cool.
It does smell good.
Make our own now.
Washing it with that viscousy stuff going there.
It's actually pretty bougie.
Yeah, I bet. Totally. And if you guys are in, when you come to Montana, you need to hit up Tupelo Grill. Great.
Hey, I used to work for him.
Oh.
Carlos?
The owner of that. He owned Haskell Station on the way to the mountain.
He did own Haskell. He sold that off. Yeah, Pat's one of my closest friends, and he's a great supporter of Yamhill. And
I was his chef for a summer.
Right on. Well done. Yeah, Pat's great. He we're gonna give him the little props right now because he pours our reserve wine by the glass, and the last 2 years he's sold more reserve than any account in the country.
Huh.
Right on.
Oh,
Nice.
I love Pat. He wouldn't remember me, but send him my love.
I will. Are you Chris?
I am Chris Riley.
Right on. Yeah. And did you work when Brown was still there?
No,
Famous local server guy?
no, I've heard the name.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool. I want to hear somebody's other thoughts on tasting. What's anybody's wine opened up and they feeling like the wine's tasting really good right now? What about Janet and Todd?
Yeah, Greg, I think this wine is really nice. Unlike a lot of Pinots I've had before that can be, dry and kind of light on the tongue.
Okay.
This one is full of rich and deep flavors that it's a wine I could drink a lot of, I think.
Very cool. Very cool. That's a pretty sweet pup you have there too.
Yeah, this is my project. When, you know, you're unemployed and stay home a lot, get a puppy.
Oh, so cute.
Oh, we're big
Everyone's
dog
met her
lovers
before,
around
but that's
here.
Bella.
This is Bella.
Oh my God, adorable.
Oh,
Indy.
We rescued her from the Indian reservation, so
oh, very cool.
she's
Oh,
3.5 months old. So
Oh my goodness, that's some quarantine fun.
she likes beer and wine, we found out.
oh.
You'd fit right in with the burger
You
family.
gotta watch that one.
Yeah, you can't put the glass down because it's like,
Oh,
I don't know where
you
you
have
learned
to
it.
classify me as a puppy. Don't set your
Yes,
dog.
you're 3 months old.
Yeah,
You talking about Todd or the puppy?
exactly.
The
I love
puppy,
it.
yes, the puppy. She's a sweetie.
What's the little side action? What's going on in Jackson right now? Or so I was down in Jackson
Snow?
end of February, and I did a dinner and tasting at Teton Pines, and then got home, and then Corona happened. So
That's what's happening.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, look at T-Pop
Oh.
Pass.
Yeah.
Oh man, high
Big
tech.
ski day coming up tomorrow. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Big
You just
time.
gotta hike up to get there.
yeah.
No worries.
I realized
That's what legs are for.
my 12-year-old skins aren't doing very good. I need to buy a new set of skins, and been skiing a lot in the last couple of weeks. And that text that chirped in while we were tasting earlier was the are we going at 4 tomorrow? So it's a distance event.
Nice.
4 is too early.
4 is too early.
I know there's people here that love that, but I tried it for
Among them, maybe.
I'm
half a
talking
winter
4 in
and
the
I
afternoon.
couldn't hang.
Oh,
Oh, in the
Oh.
afternoon.
Oh, it's been
Oh.
cold. It's been cold here. It's bulletproof until about 3 or 4, and so yeah, this is a skin to the top, hang out, have a beer, watch sunset, headlamp back to the car kind of day.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty quiet around Whitefish and Ski Town though. There's a lot of friends and people that are having tough times out of work. I mean, like Jackson, we're so dependent on tourism, and you know, I'm so connected to the restaurant business, having owned a restaurant here for a dozen years, and those are all my people. It's really tough to see, but you know, the spirit's amazing, and people are doing some, you know, some cool things as well, just to, you know, keep everybody's spirits up. So
so you grew up in Portland. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Beaverton High School.
Mm.
I was Beaverton class of '86. I believe there's even some pictures of me at the winery wearing around some Beaverton gear that I, you know, not a big fan of the black and the red. I went to University of Oregon, so
Yeah.
I threw away all my black and orange when I went off to college. But yeah, so west side of Portland, and yeah, and then I you know, went to University of Oregon and spent a lot of great time at the winery, and worked in the cellar with Stephen quite a bit. And then I hit a point where it was time for me to step away from the family biz, and I did that. And my wife and I moved to Montana, and I worked for a wholesaler. I sold beer and wine for 2.5 years here, and had a great time doing that. And then I opened up a restaurant with a friend and did that for 12 years. In the meantime, we opened up a ski in, ski out bar up at Whitefish Mountain Resort called the Beer Stew, kind of a famous ski town bar. We still have that place. Sold the restaurant in 2008, was asked to get back. You know, that's how Ariel and I's kind of paths crossed, in that I was asked to get back involved, and she was just kind of getting involved. And so there was kind of this wave of transition that happened in between 2008 and 10, where there was some kind of, I'll call it young blood, though I don't consider myself young.
Oh, you're young.
I came full circle, and when you step away and come back, you appreciate it so much more. And that was the best thing that could have happened to me, was stepping away and then coming back and just reuniting with everybody, and you know, and then having Jenny come along, and we're just such a fun team right now with the same common goal, and there's some great just energy around, and I have to say, it's a gotta watch yourself around Yamhill. It's a pretty heavy female-run business. we pretty much watch ourselves, and it's my dad and I kind of looking at each other saying, okay, I guess we need to work a little harder to keep up. So it's just such a neat thing. And, you know, as you guys all know, thriving small business is all about the people. And we're so fortunate that we're surrounded by incredible people. And I get to live my dream living out here in Montana, but I also get to tell the family story of Yamhill every day when I'm out working and covering the rest of the country. And so pretty cool thing. And you get to do things like this and meet great people. And Kevin and Stefan, certainly appreciate all your guys' support. You know, can't wait to come heckle you guys next time I'm in town. I missed you in February.
That's all right. We were, you know, we have our finger on the pulse out here,
Yeah,
so we
totally.
knew what was good and when we needed to buy.
I think I was tracking around in Hobacks and some knee deep stuff.
Nice. Well, that's more important, honestly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't waste your time coming in the store. We already know the one.
No, if it's knee deep, I'm not
See
seeing
if I
you.
can get this. I found on my phone a picture.
Oh,
of
he's
Steph-
on the rock, baby.
Yeah, Stefan on the erratic rock. From
Oh,
back in
yeah.
2017.
Yes.
He's pointing
That
at where the
rock.
rock came from.
That
Yes.
rock's a symbol of our glacial soil. It came from
Yeah.
the floods 15, 20,000 years ago.
Ariel told us to go, and we did, and it was awesome. So thanks,
Nice.
Ariel.
Yeah, that's definitely worth hitting on. So, you know, it's another part of our soil structure, which is this Missoula flood soils. So we have a strong geological connection with Missoula, Montana into Canada because of these Missoula floods that, as Greg mentioned, that happened 15 to 18,000 years ago. And these are floods that happened in waves. There was over 40 floods in the series that formed the gorge, the Columbia River Gorge that separates Oregon and Washington, and made it as far south as Lake Allison, just south of Eugene. But just 1 mile from our property, from our gate entry, we have this beautiful specimen that came, and it was 140 tons when it arrived in a glacier here 18,000 years ago. And a lot of our topsoil has that same makeup in it. So it is truly a unique site, being that some of this soil isn't even from here. And it's so fascinating learning about the true history. Like all of this used to be underwater as well. So in the marine sedimentary soils, you find these little fossils. You've got this Missoula flood soil that is layered on the top, and it just gives us this amazing terroir that you literally cannot find it anywhere else in the world. So it's a very unique property, and because of that, a very unique wine. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Love the wine. Fantastic. Love the label too. Boy, let me tell you.
Good. Yeah, I think hopefully that'll be our label for the next 35 years, because that was our kind of our gift to ourselves for our 35th anniversary. And we had a series of many different labels the 35 years prior. So we want to stick with this classic one.
Yeah.
Solid work. Greg and Ariel, thank you guys for showing up and providing us with so much depth, insight about the wine and your winery and what you guys do. This is solid.
Many thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely.
I need more.
Pleasure.
Order coming soon. I have 3 bottles left of the Pinot. I don't know how we sold all 3 cases that I had bought already, but I'll place another order real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Order time.
And next time you're in town, Greg, please do come by and say hello. I'll
definitely make sure to come in and see you. You know, at this point, the plan was kind of a late May visit pre-summer, but obviously that's kind of on hold right now. But I'll make sure to be in touch and come say hi and give you guys a big thank you. So, but you know, we certainly really appreciate all your support, and that's huge for us. And we just want to make sure you realize that, you know, it takes everybody to, like you guys, to make this thing keep going. So thanks again.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank
You guys
you,
rock.
guys. Cheers.
Thank you guys so
Making
much.
beautiful
Cheers.
fantastic wine.
Thank you.
See you soon.
All right, everybody. That's a wrap. You guys have a great.
Well done.
Bye. You
Okay.
guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.